Hello everyone, we're live. Okay, today, as per the stream title, we're going to be working on a new game using Bevy and Rust. Falling Sand game. You might already know what that is, but if you don't, quite a famous example is Sandspiel. Basically you've got a grid where you've just got an empty 2D world and you can drop various materials in it and they fall, accumulate at the bottom, so that's sand. You can put water in. When you drop it, it flows like water would. And you can do other different things like plant plants and they'll grow, put fire, burn stuff, put some oil in there. That's flammable liquid basically. And so on and so on. Put some lava in there. Lava plus water gets turned to stone. So you see it's a nice little sandbox game that has some physics and has some interactions between the particles. So we're going to build that in Bevy using compute shaders. Okay, so to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to use this Bevy game template by Nicholas E. It's a template for a Bevy game, includes things like GitHub workflows and builds for Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Ideally what we're going to do is also deploy this game to iOS and iPad OS, maybe Android as well, haven't decided yet, but basically we're going to start with this template. So to use a template on GitHub, you click use this template, create a new repository, and the repository is going to be called Falling Sand Bevy. Falling Sand game, put description, Falling Sand game, written in Bevy, using compute shaders. The reason to use compute shaders is it will be really fast and really performant. There is an existing game on the iPad called Powder Game, and that just uses, as far as I know, it doesn't use compute shaders or the GPU in any way. So what that means is that it's not getting the best possible performance out of your hardware. So hopefully if we can get this deployed on iOS, we can see how much better it is than Powder Game. So that repository is just creating. Alright, now that's created, I can clone it. I'm using git bash in Windows, just because I'm on a Windows PC at the moment. So it basically looks like Linux or Mac OS, but we're in Windows. It doesn't really make a difference. Bevy should be able to deploy the same in Windows, Mac and Linux. So if you're following along, you can use any of those platforms. Should be almost identical. So first thing I'm going to do is clone this repository that we just created. And if I just copy that, paste. I think good old Windows puts a load of junk in my terminal when I do that, but that's okay. So that's the repository URL. Just try the password. No. Okay. So that'll pull down our repository, and then what we'll do, go into that repo, just have a look. Oh yeah, so we got a cargo and everything. What we're going to use to write the code is Sea Lion, which we already have installed. Just going to fire that up. Highly recommend using Sea Lion if you haven't used it already. Some people use VS Code. I find Sea Lion to be better. Falling Sand Bevy, just find the folder. Yes, trust the project, and then this will actually open up the project we've just created from the template. Right, tells you a little bit about the template, how that works. So let's have a look around. First thing to look at is the cargo dependencies. Okay. So we want to change, anywhere there's a to-do, we want to change to our own details. So we're going to change the name to Falling Sand Game. Author is going to be me. What's the format? Okay, let's do it. Match the format. Dun, 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 dun. edition 2021. That's totally fine. So we'll get rid of these to-dos as we sort them out. Okay. Right, it's just looking through the cargo. So our dependencies are Bevy, Kira Audio, which I haven't used before, but presumably it's good. Bevy Asset Loader, and RAND for random number generation. Winit and image. Okay, and embed resources as a build dependency. So that looks good. We're just waiting for cargo to do its stuff in the background. Where the way CLion works is it indexes your project, realizes it's a Rust project, and then does all the cargo stuff in the background. That's why it's saying at the top here, no cargo projects found. Until it's done that, it's not actually going to be able to recognize that it's a proper Rust cargo project. But when that finishes, this message will go away, so just ignore that for the time being. But let's just have a bit of a poke around in terms of what stuff we've got here. So we got some assets, okay, sound file, we got a font, we got a texture, just a Bevy logo. Then, oh yeah, we got some assets, icons and resources and stuff for doing builds on the various platforms. We'll just leave that for now. Then we got some licenses, all good, and then the source code itself. So if we look in the lib, we've got a load of stuff. Asset loader, so this is the loading project, main. Okay, it's setting multi-sample anti-aliasing on. Okay, so it's doing a bunch of stuff. And all looks okay. So we've got a menu, player, plugin. Okay, so we've got a bunch of Bevy plugins already created. And it's factored out into a separate module for game actions by the look of things. So controls are factored out. That's quite nice. Okay. Okay, so cargo is still downloading the crates in the background. While that's doing that, we can still do a cargo run ourselves to check we're actually in the right place. We are, so we can do cargo run. Yeah, of course it's blocking because CLion is doing it at the same time. So hopefully it won't take too much longer. Downloading crates, updating indexes, ba-da-da-da-da. Okay, that's done. So now we should be able to go into the cargo menu and run the game. So that is the library, I think. Yeah, that's the library. So we want to run the binary. So we'll just run that. See what happens. Bevy game did not match any packages. Yeah, okay, so that means that we need to we need to find and replace. What about to-dos? So we called this, what did we call it? Let's go back into the cargo tool. Falling sand game. So when you get everywhere that it says Bevy game, we're going to need to place. Find in files. And we want to actually search for Bevy game. Okay, so that's for the Mac OS version, same as your executable name in the release flow. So yeah, we'll change that. Let's actually do a find and replace like this. Find and replace in files. So we're going to find Bevy game and replace it with Falling Sand game. So for example, it's going to replace that one, that one. Okay, and this is in the launch JSON for the Wasam build, which is cool. Okay. It doesn't really matter, that's just in there. Info P list, yeah, we're going to do that. And replace Bevy name game with your crate name. Okay, so that all looks good. We're going to do that. I see if so the target should have updated that. Let's have a look at the cargo just to check. Not got them there. Let's try and just reload, refresh the cargo project, see if it picks it up. It does show Bevy game still. Okay, great, it's updated it. It's now called Falling Sand game. If we run that, hopefully it'll build. Compiling, compiling, compiling. So you can see some quite cool settings in the cargo are for development. All development packages we do the optimization level of 3, but for our development packages we do optimization level of 1. So this means that any dependencies are compiled with optimizations, quite high optimizations, so they'll kind of like release-ish quality, and then our own code is not compiled with optimizations, which means we get a fast compile iteration time. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's not a full-blown release build, but most of the dependencies are built with release level optimizations. So that's quite useful. Okay, so it's just going through and compiling the dependencies now. First compilation always takes a while. Bevy has quite a lot of dependencies, but that's what makes it cross-platform and able to work so well. This first compilation is just a sanity check to make sure everything's working okay. while that's doing, we could just have a look at what the situation is for Git and save our changes, basically. Commit our changes. So what have we done? We have renamed target to Falling Sand Bevy. Push it straight to main, which you wouldn't normally do, but that's okay for purposes of this. Okay, cool. Yeah, I always use Git on the command line. Some people like to use the Git integration in your IDE. I just like to have full control over it. Okay, still building Bevy ECS. We're actually onto Bevy's direct dependencies now. Bevy ECS is the entity component system. Nice thing about Bevy, it's all modular, so it's broken out into separate assets. If you just wanted to build something that used the Bevy entity component system, that's a library and you can just use that separately. I know some people have done that with Godot, where they've used Rust and Bevy ECS to write the game logic in Rust, and then used GD extension or GD native in the case of Godot 3 to basically make a plugin for Godot that is actually running your native code in Rust, which is very nice. We might have an experiment with that on a future stream. Benefit of doing that is Godot is a lot more fully featured and has an editor, whereas Bevy does not really have a usable editor at the moment. There is Bevy editor please, but it's not very feature rich at the moment and not really ready for production usage, unlike Godot, which is. So again, you can get the best of both worlds. If you use Bevy ECS, you can still have that really nice query based game logic written in Rust, of course, so it's super speedy and nice and memory safe. You get all the guarantees that Rust gives you, and then you can just piggyback on the Godot engine. Okay, right, it's running. So we've got a Bevy game. So this is the menu, and then there we go. That's our Bevy logo, presumably loaded as a sprite or a texture, and all good. Okay, so we've got successful compilation. So the next thing to do is actually start the work for our Falling Sand implementation. And like I said, this is basically going to be implemented using a custom render pipeline in Bevy, using our own compute shaders. So I think first thing I'm going to do is just kind of change the main method, the app entry point, and customize some things just to make it a little bit nicer, and we'll take it from there. We don't really need a menu at this point, so we'll probably just get rid of that for now. And I want to set the frame rate to uncapped and display the frame rate in the window as well, so we can see what kind of performance we're getting. That would be quite useful to know. So let's go about actually changing that a little bit. So then, first things first, let's set the present mode. We'll change the title of the thing as well, of the game. Falling Sand game. We want a present mode. Sorry. We're going to set that to Bevy window present mode, uncapped, auto, no vsync. That means it will not limit our frames per second because we're turning off vsync. Sometimes C-Line comes up with errors, but it's just slowly catching up with the fact that there aren't actually any errors. So that was a phantom error just there. Sorry. Okay, so let's now have a look at the game plugin. This is in lib.rs. So we've got loading plugin, menu plugin, actions, internal audio, and player. They're probably all okay. Might just leave those. Maybe I will leave the menu after all, because it's probably useful to have a menu. Okay, so let's also let's add another plugin. To do the frame rate in the window title. So we'll do frame time diagnostics plugin, which is built into Bevy. And then we'll create a system to display the FPS. And then we're going to query for the app's windows. So we want a mutable reference to the window, because we're actually going to modify the title. And it's going to be primary window. Okay. And then we're going to get the window out of our windows query. Get single mutable. If that succeeds, we'll try and get the frame diagnostics. This is the raw FPS. Diagnostics. Get frame time diagnostic plugin. FPS. So we're going to get the FPS. If that succeeds, we're going to smooth it. Raw FPS smoothed. Right, that'll just give us a nice sort of moving average kind of value, and then we'll set the window title. Falling Sand game, and then FPS. FPS smooth with a precision of 2 decimal places. Put that in brackets. So it should do our window title and then show the FPS after that. And then we want to actually add this as a system to our frame time diagnostics plugin. the app itself. Display FPS. You just add a system by adding the function name. Okay, we should be good. Let's try and run that. See if it works. Okay, it's finished. It's running. So we panicked. Plugin was already added. We've already added it somewhere else. In application, app RS 74663. Okay, so we have already added this plugin somewhere else. Let's have a look. Where is it? Oh, yeah, of course. Here we go. If we're in debug mode, we'll add it there. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's do it there. Get rid of adding it in not debug mode. That's that. Add plugin, add plugin, and put it there instead. So it just adds it. The display FPS. If we're running in debug mode. Right, let's try it again. Oh yeah, I thought I was missing that prime. I think I can just press Shift F10. Not used to the hotkeys on Windows so much. Close to the limiter. Oh, it's because we've got an extra. Oh, I think, yeah, of course, that should be that. Okay. Okay, running. And there we go. We now have FPS. So it's like 500 FPS. Cool. It doesn't look very smooth, does it? Let's try it out of interest. Let's have a look at the raw value. Oh, I see. So FPS raw is the wrong type for us to display anyway. Oh, it's a diagnostic. And then smooth gives us a float 64-bit float. Okay, fair enough. It does some internal magic. We'll stick with that then. Okay, cool. I'm going to just use the run menu from here in future. Returns the exponential moving average of the diagnostic. Okay, cool. So we've got a frames per second. Let's commit that. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for today. And next time we'll actually go into building the compute shader pipeline and hopefully get some falling sand. So thanks for tuning in and see you next time.